Family, today is a significant day in history. I'll tell you a little story about a doctor by the name of Dr. Robert Holbrook Smith. This is the last day that he took a drink of alcohol. What is interesting about Dr. Smith is that he had developed a really bad drinking problem. It was evident in his college years. It was evident during medical school. It was evident as he became a colorectal surgery doctor, and he got to a point where he could not feel comfortable doing surgery unless he had something to drink. His compulsive drinking affected his career, and upon getting married, it became a problem in his marriage. And he tried and tried and tried to stop drinking, went to various sanitariums, tried different methodologies. Nothing helped. He met a man by the name of Bill Wilson, a businessman who happened to have the same problem of compulsive drinking. The two determined that the only way they would stop drinking is that they needed to support one another. So Dr. Smith, in the presence of Bill Wilson on June 10th, in 1935, drank his last beer and never drank again until he died. What is interesting about the union between Dr. Smith and Bill Wilson is they both came to understand that in order to overcome a problem, you don't need people who are critics and people who are judgmental, but you need people who understand, people who are willing to strengthen you and support you. As a matter of fact, when that is a mutual experience, it is beneficial to both parties. They began what we now know as Alcoholics Anonymous. The company does not keep official records, but it is estimated that millions of people the world over, and certainly through the years, have benefited from two men determining to support one another to become better people and to rid themselves of alcohol problems. Why we consider this story is of utmost importance as we consider the church. There's been much conversation recently from people in regards to the return to service or the lack thereof. Individuals are quick to cite Hebrews chapter 10, and in particular verse 25 that prohibits the saints from failing to assemble together. We could argue that an assembly does not necessarily have to take place in person, that we can assemble via technology, and that still constitutes a gathering of the saints. But let's set that argument aside for just a moment. Let's not make it about in-person or technology. Let's consider some reasons beyond technology and in-person that may be of importance. Are we finding ourselves understanding the premise of verse 25, which provides that the coming together is supposed to be mutually advantageous, just as Dr. Smith and Bill Wilson benefited each other by coming together? The lack of interest for many to not return at the same time where we see people excited about returning to other venues may be cause for careful consideration. Is this merely a matter of people being comfortable sitting at home, or are there more factors that deserve our attention? See, what are we returning to? Are we returning to our comfortable norms? Are we returning to that which makes us comfortable, where we go through the motions and we foolishly tell ourselves we've done something of importance when all we did was go through the motions that we go through each week? Are we returning to a mere social experience? Are we returning to a fashion show? As we consider the sacred scriptures, not only does Hebrews 10 and 25 teach us the value of us mutually blessing one another by admonishing or exhorting rather one another, we also see the Bible teaches us in Ephesians 4 and verse 29 that in our communication to one another, it should be those things which are edifying, things that minister grace to each other. So the question that we need to examine is, how beneficial has our assembly been? Let's look at just a few things that people should experience in the saints coming together, whether they're coming together in person or through some other form. There should at least be, number one, an experience of love, care, and concern. You see, when Dr. Smith and Bill Wilson got together, they had a care and concern for each other's improvement because they understood the struggles that the other had. Sometimes church can be a place of sitting under a microscope and extreme judgmental experiences. Why would a person be in a hurry to return to a place that they perhaps have not felt love, care, and concern? Second, it needs to be a place where people experience acceptance and at the same time accountability. We often say that the church is a hospital, meaning that all of us are sick with sin. And we need to know that it is the place where I can be accepted, though I may not dress the way others dress, though I may be as guilty of sin as the next person, that I can feel that I'm embraced and loved by those who are present. And at the same time, I'm not allowed to just live any kind of way, that I'm encouraged by knowing that I am accountable to someone. Not someone who's judging me, but someone who's trying to help me so that I can be a better person. Third, it needs to be a place where we experience community and not cliques. One of the often discouraging experiences for many is that the church is a place, unfortunately, in some instances, in fact, in too many instances, where there are social circles and not the fellowship that we're supposed to experience as the body of Christ. Fourth, it needs to be a place where we experience a common purpose. It is sad to say that not everyone attends church for the same purpose. And if our hearts are not united in a common purpose, there can be no real biblical koinonia fellowship. 5, it has to be a place where we experience growth. There should be the type of growth in the atmosphere that when we are absent, we truly feel as if we've missed something. 6, it needs to be a place of safety. Not safety from the virus or safety from the violence of the streets, but safety where our conversations are honored, that people don't run and tell our prayer requests, a place where our vulnerabilities are guarded and protected, a place where we know that our hurts and our pains are valued and are taken to heart by those who are present. 7, it needs to be a place of selflessness. If we could get ourselves out of the way and promote the one another teachings of the Bible, you know, that love one another, esteem one another, forgive one another, all of those one another's in the Bible, then we can create an atmosphere where when people miss it, they miss it because there's such a value in it that they can't wait to get back to it. So maybe we need not be so critical and condemning of those who are not eager to return to in-person worship. Maybe we need to examine what kind of atmospheres we've created, or the lack of a spiritual atmosphere that make people feel that they've not missed much in the first place. As we look at the sacred scriptures, we recognize that we live in a dangerous world, and the body of Christ is supposed to be a place where we find shelter and we find a spiritual safe haven, and we become better as a result of our coming together, and not find the church as a place filled with some of the same hellish experiences that we encounter in a sin-sick world. Whether a person chooses to worship in person or whether or not they assemble by way of technology is a matter of their personal preference. But whichever vehicle they choose, let's make sure that they receive something so awesome that when they miss it, they have truly missed something. Otherwise, they're just going through the motions of showing up and not having real fellowship, just showing up to say that they were there and not having experienced anything while they were there. I'm not sure that just showing up is fellowship. Sometimes just showing up is just showing up. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.